लेकिन जो कॉन्फिडेंस आता है वो इस बात से कि जो मैं कहूँगा वो पहले भी लोग कह चुके हैं, जिसका मतलब कि कोई गलत बात नहीं है. All right. Thank you, Dr. Nasim, distinguished speakers, honorable guests. It's a matter of honor and gratitude that I'm speaking about a personality who have been raison d'etre and stimulus in many ways for my attitude towards life in general, everything that life offers and things it does not. Before I start, I'm certain of one thing, and that's the brevity of time. I will not be able to do justice with Ghani Baba, but here, in whatever time I got, I'll try to tell you about who he was and what his poetry is about. I have named my talk Ghani and Iconoclast. My talk will be trilingual, since Pashto is my Madri Zaban, so I'll be intermittently speaking in English, Pashto, and Urdu. Kala kala da ghani hum kisa aura. सबसे तवील कामत में हूँ जब जितने स्पीकर हैं. कला कला द गनी हम किसा आउरा da hum derora the loi wani sanga. At times listens to Ghani's story, my brethren, for he too is stem of a large tree. Though he called himself stem of a large tree, but I'll borrow Whitman words here to say that Ghani himself was large and contained multitudes. He was fully grounded and trained in Arabic and Persian. By the way, it's interesting to know that Ghani Baba learned Arabic from the erstwhile South Asian scholar of his time, Maulana Aslam Jirajpuri. He learned Arabic from Aslam Jirajpuri. Yeah, that's very interesting. I didn't know that. He was trained in chemistry and chemical technology. He spent time with Tagore at Shantiniketan, which is literally Darul Aman, where he gained skills in painting and sculpture. Ghani was an extremely witty person, akin to Ghalib's. When he was asked about his address, Ghalib and Delhi, when Ghani Khan was asked where he is, and he said, Hashnagar ki ya Ghani vi ya Ghani. We'll come to that. There are only two things. Hashnagar, he rhymed it, sugar cane and himself. By profession, a chemical engineer, by passion, a poet, a political worker, a sculptor, and humanly, a personification of Herat. Most of his poetry is about Herat. He exquisitely said of a poet in him, Chi bihisa sham rokegam, chi esas laram sozekam. Na takat shtada sakun, na himat istirab. To be indifferent is to be irrelevant. But to feel is to die. Too powerless to be content, no courage to be anxious. So to the occasion about this translation and Echoes of the Mountain, few words about translation. Translation is a very delicate process. Too literal translation may miss the spirit of original, and too free rendering may be charged with the offense of attributing to the author something which he or she probably never contemplated. To achieve the balance and exhibiting that act in the work is where the craftsmanship lies. To anecdotal reference, if it's too literal translation, 70s or KN में या early 80s में वेस्ट इंडीज की टीम ने जब पाकिस्तान का दौरा किया तो उर्दू अखबार में एक सुर्खी लगी जहां पर लिखा हुआ था कि मगरिबी भारत की टीम आई है. अब ज़ेबी दास्तान के लिए ये भी सुन लीजिए कि टू लिटरल पे कि कायद-ए-आज़म की उर्दू ऐसी ही थी जैसे हमारी अंग्रेजी. जब पिंडाल में शोर बहुत ज्यादा हुआ तो उन्होंने कहा कि काम डाउन, काम काम काम, उससे हमने उर्दू का काम ले लिया. तो ट्रांसलेशन में इन चीज़ों का ख्याल रखा जाता है. So translation is a labor intensive apart from knowing the language, but the effort itself becomes passion intensive when you do it voluntarily and just because you love something and you want to let the whole world knows about it, how beautiful it is. Translating Ghani Baba poetry is an arduous task in many ways. Foremost, the literal untranslatable culturist Pashto metaphor, phrases, and similes. And then the free verse format of Ghani poems. Ghani Khan himself says, Karangvi ka tarashvi ka charbeta ka badala, Karangvi ka tarashvi ka charbeta ka badala, Pakhbala la rawanvi be ustaz da gundina. Be it painting, sculpting, quatrains or epic poetry, rudderless they are, mindful of their own journey. So thought here is that creative urges take precedence over structure. I believe that's where Ghani Khan gives license to Dr. Sahiba to go for it, but be honest with the thought. Here is an example of how difficult it is to translate Ghani. He says, Mina Husn Jood ki bya pishi Mina Mayana. Mina Husn Jood ki bya pishi Mina Mayana. Mina levaneda Mina Mina. I cannot. But if you can translate Dr. Sahiba, it will be good. But the main thought here is about the, as we say in Urdu, mosikiyat or takrari alfaz, like mir takim is patta patta bhuta kind of. So that stuff. So at times you have to struggle to do the right translation. Anyway, translation is a broad church. As long as the translator is completely honest about the way in which he or she is using the original text, it's all for good. In my opinion, poetry in translation simply adds to the sum total of human pleasure obtainable through language. The auditory sensation of poetry and interpretation by brain leading towards an imaginative process of feel-good is the currency. It revitalizes our daily cliche-hunted vocabulary. It disturbs our assumptions, jolts us with rhythms. It extends us in a way traveling does, giving us new sounds, signals, and sights and smells. Ghani Baba poetry. A free spirit has a personality, and that's exhibited in his poetry. As I mentioned earlier, he was Heran for most of his time, and two things really played vital role in his poetry, and I think that's exhibited in most of his poems. It's about the why and how. So let's dwell on the why first. In 1930 in London, when he was just 16-year-old, he wrote a poem. It's called Khudaya Wali. Oh God, why? Few couplets from there. Khudaya akal che uzra der ala wali rakru. Payo mulk ke dvakhur sara badshahan. Da badshahi o fakiri de wali okro. Dajwandun pahara sa ke mar pinha. Wali gham laka asman da jahan khor de. Khudaya khushali de wali kranaya. Oh God, why you give me her when you granted me mine? Like two arrogant kings to rule single reign. Why you created royalty and peasantry together? Like death hidden in every breath. Why, like sky, the world is covered in despair? And why the joy is so scarce? It's a long poem, like most of Ghani Khan, but it ends very beautifully and with exclamation. Wali di mala da wali takat rakro. Khudaya wali, Khudaya wali, Khudaya wali. Why did, and he's telling his Janan, God, why did you give me the power of why? Why? A well-researched dissertation can only do justice with Ghani's hows. So we talked about why, now how. But can surely I'll dwell here with his known poem, Hell, Dozakh. It's a longish poem, but here the point is Sanga, how. In the whole poem he's talking about how. Sanga is the word for how in Pashto. And a few famous lines from there. Sanga hokke da mulata. Turane balbala hera. How can I listen to mullah but ignore the nightingale sound? Sanga umanam tajurku da jahanu asman dela che khiyam rawan pazur ki tawafuno da kabela. How do I accept that you made the universe only for that reason that khiyam by force be sent to the pilgrimage of Kaaba? And lastly in that point we say Sanga gham ghalila warkram da qiyamato hisabuno ka kazaki da balbale da sparle osre guluno. So how I gave sorrow to Ghani of doomsday and its accounts. How can I lay hatred of flowers in the butterfly heart? The variety of themes and subjects in Ghani Khan poetry are wide and diverse, but in a sense he was a romantic poet. The theme of romance is all over his poetry. Even his most philosophical, his dirges, his political poems, all are blanketed by romance. His modernist style, philosophical depth, lyrical brilliance make him a towering figure in Pashto literature, whether lamenting societal flaws, celebrating love, or pondering death. His verses continue to captivate readers. When it comes to Sindh genre, Ghani was basically a poet of Nazm, but being free-spirited and rebellious of everything under the sun, how come he would have followed the meters of established poetry in any way and form? Scholars note that Ghani Khan's modernist approach, marked by the cultural pessimism and mistrust of institutions and fragmented imagery, parallels global literary movements of 20th century, yet remains uniquely Pashtun. His rejection of traditional structure and focus on Nazm have been studied as a bold departure, positioning him as a postmodernist humanist. It's more of a linguistic side of it. So what are the objective criteria of appreciating a poetry? I believe apparently it's rhythm, the rhapsody, the beauty of thought, takhayyul ka naghma khayal ki ranai. I believe after Rahman Baba, Ghani Khan is the most sung poet in Pashto. If there is an expression or a phrase that sums up Ghani Khan's thought and his philosophy, in Urdu it will be as been said earlier, Qatre mein Dajla or Juz mein Kul, so the same thing, Wahdatul Wujud kind of stuff. Ghani rational being, but though that's important, along with that mystical side, Ghani rational being is actually an emotional and instinctive being. To phrase it in Nietzschean aphorism, it's human all too human. In a number of his poems, he used the metaphor of mullah, at times literal too, to distinguish the human faculty of love from the materialistic and ritualistic norms of society, and the person who leads on to that path is none other than mullah. I look forward to Dr. Nasim to dwell further on that, but the takeaway from a Ghani critique of mullah, to say it in Iqbal word, it will be, ye jannat mubarak rahe zahidon ko, कि मैं आपका सामना चाहता हूँ. The repeated references in Ghani poetry is about two personalities, Umar Khayyam and Mansur Khalaj. On Umar Khayyam, he was a spiritual pragmatist, and that's how Ghani celebrates him as a metaphor over his poetry, all over his poetry. The non-conformist is the nexus between Ghani Khan and Khayyam, and the intensity of mutual taste they hold in their philosophy for life. The presence of Khayyam in Ghani poetry is evident far and wide, and have specifically cherished him for his artistic exhilaration and divine euphoria. The transcendental elation journeying away from the tangible world to the eternal meadows where space and time are just another country, that temporal dissociation is the glimpse to the ultimate reality. To be with Janan is to be Janan, the beloved, the God. Here, I think I'll quote, I have it here, so I have to, Hafiz Jalandhri, who put it beautifully here, the same thought, कायम किया है मैंने अदम के वजूद को, दुनिया समझ रही है फना हो गया हूँ मैं, हाँ कैफे बेखुदी की वो साथ भी याद है, हाँ कैफे बेखुदी की वो साथ भी याद है, महसूस कर रहा था खुदा हो गया हूँ मैं. And it isn't possible without the ecstasy. Ghani says, Dajwandun da tero dak de, Dajwandun da tero dak de, dal tarang da khiyam nishta. Life is full of despair. There is no color of khiyam here. Of Mansur, so Mansur philosophy and life revolve around the profound experience of divine unity and the potential for human connection with God, and that's how Ghani put him in his poetry. Jwan फिरौन दे और गरूर दे कजनून दे और सरूर दे द नमरुद द जारो तख्त दे क द रंगीन मर्ग द मंसूर दे What's life? Pharaoh and arrogance, so he used Pharaoh as an arrogance, or craziness or intoxication, or is it Namrud's gold throne, or is colorful death of Mansur? Mansur metaphor is verily used in Ghani Khan poetry. Interestingly, in one poem, he attributes the Mansur metaphor to his legendary father, Bacha Khan, in the context of no holds barred, and that's where the Khudai Khidmatgar philosophy as well come. He says, Jangla de Mansur Rawan to puna tufang lari. He's going to war without any war paraphernalia, non-violence. And then he say, and it's very dear to me, Now lewane Mansur, khud ke wo khushal ho. Now lewane Mansur, khud ke wo khushal ho. Sokhili daliu zakapadaro khato. Mansur was happy and conscientious, for he went for gallows knowingly. So Mansur for him was a metaphor of no regrets at all, and it's like bekhatar kood pada atish Namrud mein ishq. And Mansur taught him that end of life is the reunion with Janan. Mina hakikat husan sayada hakikatta. Husan la zawal shta mina na lari zawal. It's important to not miss that being romantic poet, Ghani poetry was all about Josh and Walwala, celebrating the moment and life in general. He was a firm believer of Kissai Adam ko rangi kar gaya kiska lahu. I'll end here with the despair from Ghani. At the end of his life, he might have said, Nasas sho, nasos sho, basase jwan tamam sho, na khoob sho, na shrang sho, na yaar gulandam sho. इसकी ट्रांसलेशन तो नहीं, लेकिन उर्दू में इसी के तरह एक है. आई डोंट नो कि वो किसके, डॉक्टर साहब ने बताइएगा. हासिले जिंदगी हसरत के सिवा कुछ भी नहीं. हासिले जिंदगी हसरत के सिवा कुछ भी नहीं. ये किया नहीं, वो हुआ नहीं, ये मिला नहीं, वो रहा नहीं. But if we are celebrating him today, it means what he himself have said. I mean, Ghani, Tasha khawra na da Ghani sang bushi khawre. Ghani isn't a clay. How can he be forgotten? Thank you. Shukriya manana.